just really can't do an intro. I've come to accept that. Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be sort of just a casual video. I guess I'm realizing I don't make any other type of video other than a casual video, so it's just gonna be a video. But I wanted to talk a little bit about A Song of Ice and Fire because I haven't talked about it in a while, and I've kind of just been thinking about Winds of Winter and some of the things that I'm excited for, some of the things I'm kind of expecting to learn more about. So I just kind of wanted to talk about some of the things that I hope are addressed and some of the things I think are going to be addressed in Winds of Winter if we ever get that book. Yeah, I don't think I need to talk any more about this. Let's just get into some of the things I'm really excited to learn about. The first thing is, I think obviously probably top of most people's list, and that is Jon Snow. What the heck is happening with Jon Snow? Is he okay? I'm guessing probably, just because that's a pretty big deviation if that's not what happens in the book. But then again, you don't really know because the show did make some pretty big deviations with things like the Dorne plot. So I can't really be totally sure, but I'm guessing he's going to come back, kind of hoping he's going to come back because I do like his character a lot more in the books, and I just think that his journey, it feels like it's not done, but obviously that doesn't matter in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe. People will drop like flies. Honestly, I would not put it past George R.R. Martin to leave us hanging on that particular thread for like a while. You never know what to expect. I think he likes it that way, but I'm guessing that he's going to come back in the books just like he did in the show. Obviously, there are a few other factors at play in the book, which will kind of bring me to the next thing that I'm wondering about, but there's a few other factors such as Stannis and his army who are by Winterfell, and they've got Asha Greyjoy, they've got fake Arya and Reek, and so that kind of brings me to the next thing, which is I'm really curious to see what happens to Reek and fake Arya, because yeah, that was just definitely a really intense plot line that's been happening. And I mean, like, I still don't like Theon. I still never really liked his character. Somehow he was a worse character in the book, which, I mean, like, he was pretty unlikable in the show. I am still interested in what happens even if I don't like his character. Yeah, fake Arya has had a rough go of it, so curious to see what happens in regards to Stannis and his army as well. There's just like so many. I almost feel like he's gotten to the point in the series where there's so much happening. Like, I wonder if that's a huge obstacle for him going forward, just that there's so many different things and you kind of have to start bringing them back together again. So I'm curious to see how that happens. Davos is like going to get Rickon, I guess. I don't know if it's, who knows if it's really Rickon, if he's even alive. I don't really know if we have insight into that. I honestly kind of can't remember. Let me know below your thoughts on that because I don't really remember exactly if we have any indication whether or not it's the real Rickon. I think it is. I don't know. Rickon really became such an afterthought in the show, and so I'm kind of happy that at least in the book he's a little bit less of an afterthought, because the treatment he got on the show was not great. Not great at all. The next thing I'm really excited to know about is the others, and obviously I think a lot of people really want to know more about the others, more about their history, their creation. We know a little bit, but I think it would be really interesting if we could find out more about the mythology and like the magic and kind of how that works. I'm okay with not totally knowing everything about them, but it would be kind of fun to learn a little bit more of backstory, like even more backstory, even more history, even more about at least a little bit about how their magic works. Oh my gosh, Fagon. What's going on with fake Aegon? I have a lot of questions. I'm really curious to see what fake Aegon's journey is, Griff, what his journey is, what happens. I mean, I don't think he's really Aegon. I just feel like it kind of just doesn't make sense to me, but I am very curious to see what happens with him in Westeros and just what happens. I don't have any like real guesses as to like what's gonna happen with him, except that I think it's probably going to be exposed pretty soon that he's not really Aegon, and that's going to obviously throw a huge wrench in his plans, which rely on him being Aegon. So I'm curious to see what happens with Fagon. Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. Quentin Martell died. Oh, I forgot. I kind of forgot about that. I'm very curious to see what happens with Daenerys as well. Like, what's Dany gonna do? She gonna get out of there pretty soon, don't you know? So I'm really excited and interested to see what happens when she gets to Westeros. I think it'll be more subtle than the TV show. But it's interesting how different the pacing kind of is, like when things are happening in the books versus I think when they're probably, like when they happened in the show, I think aren't always going to match up, but it's very interesting. The last thing I really am excited to learn about is what happens with Sansa, who was a pretty annoying character early on in the books, and similar to the show actually, she's had a lot of growth, but it's been a little bit more interesting to watch it unfold in the books. So I think she really showed a lot of prowess, like political prowess. We saw a huge growth in the knowledge that she has taken in Littlefinger. I think she's learned a lot of real like political and emotional maneuvering skills, and I'm really curious to see what happens in the next book with her, because I think she had just such a huge leap and such a massive character development, and all of a sudden she's gotten like very interesting. And I don't mean to say that she was like uninteresting before, but she definitely wasn't as favorite of a character. She was a little more complex. I mean, it's pretty easy to root for someone like Arya, it's pretty easy to root for someone like Jon, and Sansa was like maybe a little more, it's a little more complicated. I guess actually, if we're on the topic of the Starks too, I'm curious to see what happens with Arya and her faceless training and all of that. But definitely Sansa's journey has taken more of like a turn from being, she was a bit more of a passive player, and I think she's now becoming a bit more of an active player, and that's a really interesting shift to observe, and I'm very curious to see how that unfolds. Oh, the last thing that I'm really interested to see is what happens with the Varys thing. They did Varys kind of dirty in the show. He is so much more interesting in the books, and the whole like Kevin Lannister thing that didn't really, I don't think that even really happened in the show. Did it? Yeah, I don't think that happened in the show. I don't really remember though. But anyway, in the books, definitely Varys is a little bit more interesting, and he's like setting up the throne for Aegon to take it back, and I'm again curious to see what happens with that and related to Fagon. But I think that those are like the biggest things that I'm excited to know answers about. I feel like I'll say Sansa's journey, Jay Snow, just like, is he alive? What's up with Jay Snow? Dany obviously getting to Westeros, Fagon, Aegon Griff, such an interesting plot line, and kind of tying, I guess, back into the Varys one. Very curious to see what happens with that, and Cersei and where she ends up in all of this mess. There's a lot that I want to know, but I feel like those are like the main plot points that I hope to see more about. Again, I would love to see more about the others, but I'm also okay if we don't get a ton of explicit explanations regarding their history or their magic. To me, it kind of makes sense that they would stay somewhat mysterious, although, again, it would be cool to know, just for like curiosity's sake. But I think those are the main things I'm the most excited to know about in Winds of Winter. Definitely let me know below what you're curious to know about. What are some of the plot lines that you want to see resolved or moving forward? And yeah, I'm in the mood to talk A Song of Ice and Fire, so let me know below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I will see you later. And please like and subscribe if you're interested, but that's okay if you don't want to.